So today's sparkling job is to fit this ThunderBox TB-U01 to my bike, connect the TB USB one, and then this USB to USB splitter cable that I got from Amazon as a male to two females. And the premise is basically you put these spade connectors on the terminals of your battery on the bike, and these little finger connectors here, they just flick up, and one set is for your live and one set is for your neutral. And so you can plug any device you like straight into those, the live and the neutral. And then when you turn your bike's ignition on and you start the bike, it will power it. And when you turn it off, it will unpower it. So it will be live with the ignition on or live with a live feed from the ignition in effect. And this has a built-in, built-in kind of fuse protection and stuff to protect your devices as well. This cable is also from HealTech ThunderBox, and it's just basically an extension. So effectively the positive and minus wire here will go into the positive and minus here, which is already connected to the battery with that. And then you'll have a USB on the end. And then I'm going to mount brackets for my Zumo XT and my anti-vibration wireless quad lock mount, and run those from USBs. So that's the theory. Let's see how we get on. My 2023 Triumph Tiger 1200 Rally Explorer. She's pretty, isn't she? The trouble is, when I want to fit my Zumo Garmin device up here and fit my quad lock down here, I want to power them from the power socket in the dashboard. And the trouble is here, is this kind of European style DIN connector is permanently live as soon as you plug anything into it, which is very frustrating. So on my BMW GSA and on my Multistrada Ducati, this was an ignition on live, so it just did not come on until you turned on the ignition. But for whatever reason, Triumph has decided that no, that's permanently on. And I think it's because if you plug in their Optimate charger, you don't have to think about it and it will be charging the bike because it's instantly live, even though the ignition is off. However, they could have easily done that here at the back of the bike by the passenger seat, and this is actually an ignition on. So it's doubly annoying. To me, they're the other way around. This should be for your Optimate, plug in instantly live, and then the one in your dashboard should work off the ignition. They've also, in their infinite wisdom, put a panel underneath the seat to put your iPhone in, and it will fit my iPhone 13 Pro, so it's quite large, but it's got this kind of weird, almost proprietary like connector to power it, which you could wire into if you wanted to use it for devices. But I mean, nobody wants their phone underneath the seat unless you buy into the Triumph multimedia system. And the problem with the Triumph multimedia system is exactly the same as the Cygic system used by Ducati and now the revised connected system used by BMW. It's Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, but you have to have their app open as the primary app in order for it to work. If you don't have it open, as the active app, say you want to run Waze at the same time as your multimedia navigation from Triumph, you just can't do it. And that's just not good enough for most touring motorcyclists that want to use other apps as well as the system from them. So they'll typically buy a Cardo and a Zumo, a split screen of Zumo, so they can control their music and take all their phone calls and music direct through their Cardo through their phone, or with a Garmin Zoomer. So that's where we are with that. So we're going to try and use these HealTech ThunderBox to plug in underneath the seat where the battery is, run the cables along the frame, try and hide them as best we can through the bodywork without taking any of the bodywork off, and then have connectivity in the headstock area so that we can power a GPS and the quad lock. So let's get on with it. Okay, so I've taken the passenger and rider seats off. I've left the heated cables in situ, able to do that on my bike. I'm going to disconnect the battery now. It'd be very easy to think that you disconnect the live first, removing power, but no, you always disconnect the neutral, the negative first, and then the positive. And then the cables I'm connecting to it, I'll put on the positive first and lock that down, then on the negative second and lock that down, and we are done. So now we have both terminals disconnected, and I'm just using microfiber to make sure they stay away from anything. And now it's time to wire in the HealTech ThunderBox, and this is nice and simple. You can kind of ignore the white cable. That's only used if you want to change the default modes, and default modes are fine for me. So this black cable here with the spade connector on, that's going to go onto the neutral or negative, and the red one is going to go onto the live, and then we can connect the accessories to these cable blocks here, and the black is a neutral and the green is actually the live for the devices themselves. First thing to connect is the live, so we're going to do the red cable to the red terminal, and then we're going to do the black cable by my thumb with the spade connector, which is hard to juggle with one hand while filming. We'll put the black one then on the negative side of things and tighten them back down. Okay, so now I have those on with the red cover protecting the live cables, and I've got my little cable coming here from the box, which I've stuck literally to the side of the battery. I've got the neutral coming here and connecting. Now it's just a case of trying the green wire, which is the live, with the black, with so the quad lock mount, see how we get on. So the solid green is good, and blinking is good. The solid green shows it's connected with no faults, and the blinking green is just it turning itself off. Okay, so this is what it looks like with the accessory USB plugged in. The second row along, I've just put the red into the block with the green, which is the live, and then on the other side the black to the black, which is neutral. And these things just flick up 90 degrees and push them back down once you've poked your cable in, and then it's good to go. So I'm going to connect up the quad lock to this extension, turn the bike on, and it should not come on, but as soon as I start the bike it should power the quad lock. Okay, so I've got my quad lock cable plugged into the USB, which is in the ThunderBox, and this light will come on when it powers. So when I start the bike it should be initially off, and then after a few seconds it should power. So I have the light down, I have the green LED on, permanent, solid, and my quad lock is charging, as you can see from the USB extension cable. So that's working good. You should see now when we turn it off, this should go off. So we'll see it flashing, and that's the turn off sequence, and now the quad lock goes off. Game on! Okay, quick tip, rather than remove all the bodywork, which is an absolute nightmare, use something like this, just a flexible piece of plastic. This is actually just the old-fashioned plastic handle for some curtain, for some window blinds, and I just fed it through the bike, and just use a bit of duct tape to temporarily tape your cable to it, and then pull it back through, and you are good to go. So there we are with everything installed and working. I've got my quad lock charger here, which is both wireless and anti-vibration. And I've installed the HealTech mount here. As you can see, for the Zumo, which sits nice and high in my field of vision. Now in the end I didn't use the splitter cable USB because what I found was that it wouldn't power the the Zumo. And I think that's because the Zumo has an inline box which converts 12 volt down to 5 volt in order to run. And I think if I'd have snipped off that box and put a USB connector on the end, it probably would have run. But I didn't really want to mess with the original Garmin Zumo wiring, and so I left it be. Now, in terms of the wiring, I kind of sensibly didn't run it through the right hand side of the bike, because when it's on the side stand, when it's on the kickstand, you won't see any wiring mess, which is nice. But on this side, a little bit of it is visible, and I couldn't tidy this up any further for a couple of reasons. The bodywork is too tight to actually get these power boxes behind here, and one of them is the ThunderBox USB extender, which is powering my quad lock, and the other is this box that's in question, which is powering the Garmin, and it is literally only just long enough to reach the ThunderBox that's under the seat. And so I didn't have any choice but to have them on show. There's no room to tuck them underneath or on top, unfortunately. And what I did was I put a stick of Segru behind each of those boxes. And that's just like a kind of waterproof sealant, and it will stick the boxes to the frame. It will stop them vibrating, which would damage the paintwork eventually, and they come off easily without leaving a mark. So it's just kind of like, you know, what you put in terms of a silicone sealant on your shower, but just that little bit thicker, a bit like plasticine or Play-Doh if you like. Also put a little bit of Segru on the USB connector as well, just around the top there, so that if I get caught out in the rain, nothing's going to short out. I had to run the cables under the seat, under the frame, around the top here, and then through the bodywork, and then down here I just used a couple of stick-ons to keep the cables out of the way, basically. And it all works perfectly. So what is the cost of this? Well, for the HealTech ThunderBox, it's about 80 bucks, I think, and for the USB extender, which I'm running the quad lock off, it's about 25-30 bucks, something like that. Is it worth it? Well, if you've got a power socket up in your dashboard, like I have here with the Triumph, that is permanently live rather than live with ignition on, then it probably is. The alternative is to convert this by getting your friendly mechanic, or if you're pretty good with electrics yourself, wiring the back of this into a live ignition on system, and then you can run your quad lock from it at the very least. In terms of the Zumo, I'm not really a wiring expert, probably bypassing the box that is here. You could probably snip that off, put a USB in, and then if your DIN connector here is, you put a DIN connector to USB in there, and it powers on with ignition, you're probably good to go, but don't quote me on that. But in terms of my needs, it's kind of a bit quick and dirty, but nice and simple to do, and for the money, it's fine. You know, I can easily cut my cable ties, pull the cables off the battery, in a couple of minutes and move it to another bike without having to worry about having to you know, pass into a live system or pay a mechanic lots of money to wire it into a live system. And of course, if I want to add any additional accessories above and beyond the quad lock or the Garmin Zumo, it's nice and easy to now. I just have to pop the seat, push the connectors, positive and neutral into the connectors, and situate it wherever I want. So there we go. Okay, so a quick addendum. I actually had the beeline mounted up here, and I've relocated it down here. Although that was good for line of sight, the beeline actually works best under direct sunlight. So if you've got it kind of pointing up towards the sky a bit, you'll actually see it that a little bit clearer. And I use the HealTech mount to mount the wireless anti-vibration quad lock mount, and that's sitting pretty nice, pretty wobbly and stable all at the same time. And of course I've got my Zumo up here on the HealTech mount, nicely in the line of sight. So let's see whether that works. Turn her on, screen comes up, climb the pump, low on fuel, and we should be good to go. Power to the quad lock, as you can see there, the lights, and we have power to our Zumo. Sorry I couldn't show you the full starting because you've got to pull in the clutch. Hard to hold the camera by pulling in the clutch. I'll turn it off, and the Zumo and the power to the quad lock will stay on for a few seconds as it does its countdown, and the HealTech box realizes that everything needs turning off. External power has been lost to the device, and you can see there's now no power to the quad lock. Give that a couple of seconds, and the Garmin's just connecting to the Wi-Fi just to check for updates, and then it turns itself off. So pretty nice overall. System works well, and now I have power from the switch from the ignition live. Let me know in the comments if you've bought one, or you're going to buy one, or you think it's a good idea, or whether you just spend the money and get a mechanic just to, you know, wiring your devices straight to the live system. A lot to be said for that, but you do pay through the nose for it. And I thought I'd just try something else, so there you go.
Hey you, if you want to become one of the Ride On people, don't forget to subscribe. Ride often, ride carefully, ride on.